what's going to happen in 12 years? Like,
Yeah, so what's happening is global temperatures are rising, and what these scientists discovered is that if they rise by 2 degrees more, will, I mean, long story short, will essentially get to the point of no return. So if temperatures rise 2 degrees more than they are now, the ocean will become too warm, it will become too acidic, it won't be able to house the life that's needed for us to live. So this is all in their article on the IPCC. This is all online now. What they say is that the first to be affected will be the plants. They'll be the first to go. Then it will be the animals, and then it will be us. And this is, because we've become so numb to information, because we're hit with so much information all the time. I feel like this hasn't sunk in enough yet. And until it's almost like, I feel like what happens with humans is until blood is drawn, we don't act. It's like something really, really terrible has happened to us for us to act. But they're already climate refugees. They're already, 60% of animals have gone extinct. And, that the equivalent of 60% of animal extinction is, imagine removing the entire population of North America, South America, Oceania, the whole of Africa, and half of Europe.
All right, you ready to rock? We're on?
Yeah.
We're live?
Yes.
We're rolling? Rolling. Welcome, everyone, to the Whole Truth Podcast with John Levine, sponsored by Dean's Natural Food Markets, with 5 locations now in Basking Ridge, Chester, Ocean, Shrewsbury, and Metuchen. My guest today, Gabriela Gutierrez. She is in a lot warmer than New Jersey, Spain. She is an activist, and she is passionate and sincere about removing plastics from our world, and at least eliminating them. This woman is a superstar, and I have her back on. I met her about, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago, and I knew when I gave her a ride home, she opened up my car door, and I had, I believe, 2 plastic water bottles, and the look in her eyes was something like she was going to strangle me to death. So I knew right then and there that she is not messing around, that she's sincere and passionate about plastics and removing them from the earth. She's got some incredible stuff going on. So Gabriela Gutierrez, here she is, Gabriela for Change. How are you, sweetie?
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks for having me. Do you remember that, though, when I gave you a ride home from the podcast studio?
I do, and I didn't want to say anything.
You didn't have to say a word. I saw your eyes, and I thought you were going to absolutely rip my head off. And that's when I knew, I'm like, this chick means business. She is not messing around when it comes to plastics. But how did you get so passionate about plastics? Like, this stuff has to come from somewhere. So why plastics? Like, what's so bad? First of all, what's so bad about plastics, and why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah. So for as long as I can remember, I've had a real kind of passion for animal welfare, and any kind of harm that came to animals would just break my heart. And it started with abandoned dogs and animals from mass farming, and any kind of cruelty that happens to animals. And I read once about 5 years ago about what plastic does to marine animals, and how I think it's something like 10,000 marine animals die every year because of plastic pollution in the oceans. And it started dawning on me how every piece of plastic that I used was equivalent to the life of one animal. And as soon as my brain kind of wrapped its head around that concept, I couldn't be a part of that. I just didn't want to be complicit anymore. So I decided to start doing some research and seeing how I could remove single-use plastic from my life. And that's where the journey began. And so I started with the 10 most harmful plastics. So the European Commission came up with this list of 10 most harmful plastics based on the most common plastics that wash up on beaches.
Ooh. Well, we'll get into that. I want to know about the 10 most harmful plastics. I can relate to you. I really can. I'm an animal lover, and I'm not vegan now, but I'm pretty close to it. But it got to a point where I saw some documentaries, and I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm relating to you. And when I saw some of the videos on how animals are treated, and I couldn't be a part of it either, so I actually stopped eating meat.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from completely, and it's something that's in your soul, so it's great. But what's the root of the problem? Like, here's the thing. I've actually been thinking about this. If you don't like, it's so easy to use plastic because it's everywhere, and I totally understand that it's a problem. But how do you not use plastic? Like let's say you just like a beverage and it's plastic. Like, what are the options that you can do to remove them?
Yeah. There's two that I've found so far. One is simply not buying it. So, to just kind of sacrifice that, to kind of get our priorities straight,
Right.
and to just choose not to buy it. And the other option is to do it yourself. So you can either go without it completely or make it yourself. So things like, for example, pineapple juice. A lot of supermarkets have amazing, or any kind of fruit juices, but most of them come in plastic bottles.
Yep.
So you can buy the fruit, use your blender, and make the juice yourself, and then you don't have to waste plastic. I mean, it's kind of really simple day-to-day things that we can do.
A little bit. It's always the easy stuff that kind of bites us in the butt, isn't it? It's the
Yeah,
quick and
that's right.
easy. Like it's quick and easy to buy plastic packaged fruit. So it's quick and
Right.
easy, but you'll have a plastic straw, a plastic fork, you'll have
Yeah.
plastic. There's the problem, right? There's a side effect.
Yeah.
It's easy to go get some pills for high blood pressure.
Yeah.
There's a side effect, right? It's easy to get fast food if you want it real quick. But it seems
Exactly.
like the stuff that works is the stuff where we have to kind of put a little effort into it. That's
Exactly.
awesome. I love that. That's a great idea. I never even thought about that. So just get
Yeah.
your own fruit
Right.
and put it in a blender and make it
Right.
and avoid that
Exactly.
whole issue.
Exactly. Exactly. Or things like, cosmetics, making your own toothpaste, or making your own shampoo, or making your own face creams. If you really, once you start on the journey, your eyes kind of open to all plastic. So it starts with things like bottles and straws and cutlery, but then you realize that your shampoo comes in plastic and that your makeup comes in plastic. And, so it's really hard to kind of, there's no end to this journey, really. It's a sort of, the bottles are just the beginning.
Yeah, well, it's a great cause. And you know what? So like plastic bags, because I know the
Mhm.
plastic bags, they end up in the oceans and that kind of like it smothers the sea animals. One thing that we do is you can just use reusable produce bags, just
Yeah,
regular bags. So just have those
yeah,
bags ready,
exactly,
bring them to the store, and just
exactly,
reuse them over and over and over and over and over and over and over, right?
exactly, exactly. I mean, there's a concept that I think is at the essence of living plastic free, and it's being self-sustainable.
Right.
So, what does it mean to be self-sustainable? It means having your own bottle so that you don't depend on getting it from an outside source. It
Right.
means having your own snacks, for example, when you're traveling or when you go to work, so that you don't have to go and buy a granola bar in plastic, or a packet of crisps of chips in plastic.
Right.
Um, so it's kind of, when you start looking at it that way, to live sustainably is to be self-sustainable. It all starts turning.
And be a little
So
prepared, right?
yeah, exactly. So that involves preparation, on weekends, making your own meals, that you can then take to work during the week in your own containers so that you avoid takeout in plastic.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing
Yeah,
crazy, because I do
No.
this. I do this. You and I were aligned. I didn't just have, I didn't just have you on the show to have you on the show, but like I have glass water bottles. So I like kombucha. I don't drink tons of it, but I like kombucha, and I use the glass kombucha bottles, and I just refill them all the
Yeah.
time. And I have several in my car filled
Yeah.
up with water. So anytime I'm thirsty, I have the empty water bottles there filled up with water, filtered
Yeah.
water. So it's kind of
Yeah.
my own water. I don't ever have to. Don't get me wrong. Occasionally, it's not there, and you got to run out, and you got to get. Well, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, right? And you got to go get water. You got to get water. But being a little bit prepared, even with like fruit and berries, like I will literally have berries in a glass jar in my
Mm,
in my car,
yeah.
ready to go,
Yeah.
so that I don't have to do that to run into and buy plastic.
It's Yeah, it's interesting that you used the example of berries because berries are one of the hardest one of the hardest fruits to find plastic free unless they're in season and you go to farmers markets because normally they come in those little plastic boxes. And so that brings us to the theme of buying locally and buying food that's in season. So, berries are summer fruits.
Yeah.
So in the summer, you go to a farmer's market, you get your berries in the little cardboard boxes, and you can either put them in your own container or give them back the cardboard boxes when you go back to the
But let me
farmer's
throw
market.
you a curveball here. So you're telling me it's like 0 degrees outside in New Jersey. It's so damn cold. I like berries. I love berries. So you're telling me basically I can't eat berries for like I can't eat berries right now. I can, right?
Unless, well, what I do is I buy loads in the summer, put them in the freezer, and then I've got them all year round.
I like
So
that.
it's all like what you said. It's preparation. It's thinking ahead. It's like driving. You're looking at what's further ahead, not what's right in front of you.
How long
And
will
so
those last? If you buy them and freeze them, how long will
about
the berries
six
last?
months, yeah, more or less, 6 to 8 months.
Well, you just shot me down. I like that. No, that's great. You just shot me down, right? That was boom. Goodbye. Quit bitching about your berries, John. Here's the solution. So at the end of the summer, I can get local berries and I can freeze them
Exactly.
and have them
Exactly.
for up to 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, what's amazing about New Jersey is that you've got those endless fields of berries, those farms where you can go and berry pick,
Yeah, we
right?
do.
Berry pick, apple pick. So it's a really, I mean, I'd never experienced that before. I'd never been anywhere where I could go to a field and pick berries. I mean, that's just amazing. So to have that right there on the doorstep is great.
I
It's a
know.
great way to get your plastic-free fruit for the
Yeah,
year. You
yeah.
can have your
Shh.
smoothie, you can have your ice cream.
Don't tell too many people. We're keeping it a little bit of a secret. New Jersey always gets a bad rap. We're like the little brother compared to New York. Let's let
True that.
let's let everyone keep thinking that way just a little bit. Oh yeah, we have great berries.
Yes.
So what are those 10 most harmful plastics? You brought that up.
Yeah.
What are those?
Yeah. So I share them in my ebook so I just launched an ebook with a project that maybe I'll tell you a bit about later on, called Changemaker Rising.
Yeah, we're
And
getting to it. It's on my list. I promise.
in that ebook, I share these 10 most harmful plastics. I mean, I'll tell you some of them.
Don't tell me all
Uh,
10. Just give me a couple.
yeah, so plastic bottles are one, and um, straws are another, cutlery and stirrers. Like when you go to Starbucks and you've got those plastic
Yeah,
stirrers.
yeah,
Some places have wooden ones, but a lot of them are plastic, especially at airports.
yeah.
Um, so they're some of the most common things that wash up on beaches, as well as food packaging, plastic bags, and menstrual products. So that's about half of the things on the list.
You know what so straws, I know straws are a big problem. And there's plastic
Mm.
straws and they end up all over the place. I read something the other day where people are using glass straws and I guess
Mm.
stainless steel. I mean, I understand stainless steel straws, so that's an option instead of
Mm.
plastic. which makes total sense to me. But glass straws, what's your take on glass straws?
Um, to be honest, the same as all straws. I don't think they're really necessary unless you're 3 years old or have some kind of health problem. Otherwise, why are we using straws?
Look who you're talking to. You have
Are
no
you the
idea. You
straw
have
man?
no idea. I love straws,
Oh,
but I'm pretty much a
oh
child.
man.
So there you
I
go.
mean, it's funny. I read the other day that Starbucks has created these sippy cups. So the top of it has that kind of sippy thing that's kind of like a straw, but not really.
Okay.
And I just thought of like these adults walking around with these sippy cups, just like
Oh my
caffeinated big
God.
babies. How did we get to this point?
That I just never thought about that, but I guess you really don't need a straw, do you? You really don't need
No,
one.
I mean, when it comes down to it, and I know you like getting to the roots of problems, I feel like in this case, it's about comfort. And it's about what you said before, everything being quick and easy. And,
Yeah.
why should I have to put my mouth to the cup when I can have a straw that will, make that journey for me?
That is pretty
And
lazy, unbelievable. It's true. You're so right. I mean, that's really all it is, right? It's if I have a straw, boom, I put the straw in, I can suck down the juice and be done with it. And God
right,
forbid I have to open up the cap and just. You're right.
right. I mean, it's all the culture of convenience. And I think what you said earlier about everything being easy and quick is
Yeah.
probably the problem. That the health of the earth is at stake because of our convenience culture.
Yeah, that's my opinion of it, to be honest with you. In a lot of
Mm,
ways, not just, I mean, plastic, definitely. Um, but, you know, just the fast food,
yeah.
just being fast, that's very harmful. Fast medicine, the sick care, it's one of the reasons I started this. Quick pharmaceutical drugs, the quick, hey, I have high cholesterol. Let me go to the doctor. He's going to give me a pill.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to work that way. It seems to work the way that the more of a struggle, the more rewarding it is. We have to kind of chew our food. If you sit down and you take a little bit longer and you struggle and actually use your teeth and chew the food, like chew it 20 times and then use your saliva and let the
Right.
saliva break down the food and then swallow it and actually use your throat, for God's sakes.
Right.
It takes longer,
Mm.
it takes more time, but it's healthier, right?
Yeah,
So I
I
do
mean
think, yeah.
that's something I've noticed. There's a difference between European culture and American culture that I noticed after living in both places in Spain, various European countries and in the States. That here, to give Spain as an example, the concept of walking around with a takeaway coffee is just not. It's just not even. Just not even a thought yet. So if you want a coffee, you go to a cafe and you sit down and you have a coffee. Um, Whereas in the States, the culture, I believe, is more if you are going to work, you don't sit down and have a coffee. There's no time for that. You buy the coffee and you take it with you and you have it in your car. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's a totally different concept um, to comfort. And there's a slow-paced quality of life that I think we're missing in the States.
I've been in Europe a lot. My wife's from Poland, and we travel to Europe. And being from New Jersey and having that fast, even though I need to practice what I preach, sometimes I have that impatient, fast,
Sure.
move, move, move. I've grown up in it, quite frankly, even though I think it can be, a little bit of a problem. You're so right. Because you know what? I've gone to coffee places to get a quick coffee, and they look at you like, okay, and they take their time, and I'm like, oh, waiting for my coffee, and being impatient, and they give me the coffee, and then it comes on a tray, not a tray, but it comes on, comes in a mug, and then they give
Yeah.
you the tray, and
Yeah.
then they expect you to sit down, and I said to them, oh, can I take this and I'll bring it back, and they give me looks like, where are you going with it? And I've actually
Yeah.
done that. I've actually done that where I've taken it, and I've brought it back. Like, and
Yeah.
why? Like, just sit down and drink your coffee and chill out.
I remember when we first moved to the States when I was 15, and we went to a coffee place and they gave us coffees in takeaway cups to sit down, but it was in a takeaway cup. My mum was furious. She just, I mean, I remember she was fuming. She could not understand how we were given a takeaway plastic cup when we were going to sit down in a cafe. It just, that, again, it's just different concepts, I think.
It's a different culture. Yeah, I get it. I get it. You know, if you grow up one way and you go to another place, it's kind of like, what is going on here? So
Yeah.
we need to kind of like mold it together and learn from it. But I kind of agree with the European way. Quite frankly, I think it's a healthier way. But I got to throw this out of you because I was thinking about this because when I was asking the question, um, bulk bins. So like if you go into bulk bins, you want to tell me about the bulk bins and gum and
Yeah.
gum
Oh, right. Yeah.
gum.
Yeah. Yeah. So should we start with bulk bins?
Yeah, I'll shut up. I'm gonna let the expert with plastics talk. So
No, I love
you
your input.
you do your thing.
Bulk bins in grocery stores have become a thing and they're growing. So the idea is that you go to a grocery store and lots of them now have sections in which you have these containers with anything from rice, pasta, salt, nuts, seeds, nutritional yeast, all kinds of different snacks like chocolate covered peanuts, pretzels. You've got this section in supermarkets that now sell this so that you can take your own bag. So, say, like the ones you were talking about, reusable cotton bags, for example,
Yep.
and take them to the grocery store and you fill them up yourself. You weigh them, you put the price on them, and then, Bob's your uncle. So, you've got all of your groceries plastic free in a way that's super easy. You don't have to make any extra effort, but you're making a huge impact on the planet's welfare.
Yeah, and it's more cost effective.
It's more cost effective as
It's
well because you can buy as much or as little as you want. So you can fill up a massive bag of rice, for example, or you can just go for a little. You need something for your evening dinner, and so you take a little bag.
yep.
But what's happening now is that there's this movement, this zero waste movement that's really ignited in the past year. So you're seeing a rise in what we call zero waste shops around the world.
Oh, really?
So New York has one at the moment called Package Free Shop. It's owned by Lauren Singer. She's a zero waste advocate.
Okay.
And then you've got, a few others sprinkled around the States, lots emerging in Europe. And the idea is that all of the products that they sell are plastic free. So you'll have
Very cool.
a bulk food section, and you'll have things like reusable bottles, reusable straws, zero waste makeup, which is a really interesting one to explore. Things like reusable cleaning products.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a big movement that supports this, and it's making it more and more available for people to seek it out.
No, that's cool. But how is there reusable cleaning products? Like reuse like yeah, how does that work?
Like, for example, cleaning cloths. So things like makeup removers. You know how they've got those plastic packages of like wet wipes and things that women tend to use. So you can now get these reusable makeup wipes that you just pop in the washing machine, and yeah, and you can reuse them as much or as little as you want, and then they're made of cotton.
Huh.
So when you dispose of them, they're not toxic. Um, yeah,
Why do you women have to wear so much makeup anyway?
I
I
know.
that's you know what a lot of this becomes avoid if you avoid something like you brought up the straws like why even use a straw because you don't need to like we're all big babies. Well,
Yeah,
ladies,
yeah,
you don't have to wear so much makeup.
I know. That's a whole other theme.
You're beautiful just the way you are. You don't have to cover your face with loads and loads of makeup. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
wanted to
mean
throw
that's
that out there.
the
I believe that
yeah.
it's kind of like
I believe that as well, absolutely. And I think that we live in a culture that doesn't support a natural approach to anything, be it living, be it our presentation, the way that we look.
I do.
Yay! Please, can we have more people like you then?
Well, that's what we're gonna do with this show. We're gonna get people on board with this type of thinking because
Yeah.
natural is not always the way to go, but embrace it.
Yeah.
You don't need to wear makeup. You're Gabriela Gutierrez. You're perfect the way you are with your passion about plastics, and you don't have to put makeup all over your face. And
Yeah.
you're you.
It's
All good.
it's funny. It's funny you say that, because that's such an important point for sustainable living in general. It's, about really dropping into ourselves and coming back into presence with ourselves and saying, I don't need all the stuff that I was told I needed growing up, be it, all the conditionings from our society, from our schools, from perhaps our families, from religious establishments. There's a lot of conditioning that forms us to think that we need to act and look a certain way. And it's just not true.
I agree. This is getting deep, isn't it? This is getting deep.
Don't we always?
This is about plastics, but this is getting deep. This show. Ooh, baby.
The whole thing that you said about the root of the problem, plastic is just one of the many problems that we're dealing with as a culture right now. It's only one topic that I touch on in my work. It's important, of course, but if we just focus on plastic, if the world just starts focusing on removing plastic straws, we're missing the point. That's selective empathy. So we choose to feel more about plastic straws. So to give you an example, McDonald's has just signed an agreement saying that they're going to stop using plastic straws by the year something.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. It's great news.
That's great. However, they're still using plastic lids and they're using plastic cutlery. And isn't McDonald's all based on mass animal agriculture?
Yes, but we're getting there slowly. At least they're making a better change.
But the thing is, it's not fast enough, because we've just been informed by leading scientists that we have 12 years to turn climate change around. I mean,
how long do we have?
12 years.
But what is that? So what does that mean? Because there's so much controversy. 12 years. What's going to happen in 12 years?
Yeah. So what's happening is global temperatures are rising, and what these scientists discovered is that if they rise by 2 degrees more, long story short, we'll essentially get to the point of no return. So if temperatures rise 2 degrees more than they are now, the ocean will become too warm, it will become too acidic, it won't be able to house the life that's needed for us to live. So this is all in their article on the IPCC, this is all online now. What they say is that the first to be affected will be the plants. They'll be the first to go, then it will be the animals, and then it will be us. And this is, because we've become so numb to information, because we're hit with so much information all the time, I feel like this hasn't sunk in enough yet. And until it's almost like, I feel like what happens with humans is until blood is drawn, we don't act. It's like something really, really terrible has happened to us for us to act. But they're already climate refugees. They're already, 60% of animals have gone extinct. And, the equivalent of 60% of animal extinction is, imagine removing the entire population of North America, South America, Oceania, the whole of Africa, and half of Europe. Imagine removing all of the humans from that population. That's equivalent to 60% of animals being going extinct.
You know what I imagine right now? I imagine after this podcast, if you keep this up, I'm going to go to the doctor and get depression medication. That's what I imagine.
And this is exactly why.
Cut it out. Don't get me sad. Right. Don't get me so sad here.
And that's why, it's a fine balance between taking action and staying positive and having hope. So, Jane Goodall talks about hope, right? Hope is at the core of everything that she does. She says, if we don't have hope, we don't have anything. Even though we may, not be able to act fast enough and get our act together. We must.
We can, and we will. And that's one of the reasons that you're on this show, because when we get it out there, here's my shameless plug. But when we get it out there and we get this information out there, we're going to inspire people to make these changes. That's what this is about. All jokes aside, that's what this is about. That's what you're doing in your way, and this is what I'm doing in my way with the podcast. So when it comes out, when people will understand what's going on, and when we give them the tips to make these changes, when they get your ebook and all that stuff, yes, we will go in the right direction. Slow, everything's slow because, right? You said the word fast, but I gotta. Everything moves slow. I mean, I want more Instagram followers. I want more people to follow my show, and I'm not very patient. And I'm like, man, I want to get it out there. I want to get it out there because everything's always in a rush, fast, fast, fast. Sometimes it's slow. And I always have to take a step back and understand that. And I think even with plastics and reducing plastics and making people more aware of it, it will happen. It will. It's just, it will take time. And you must be from New Jersey. I don't know. Like, are you sure? Like, it's funny because you're awfully impatient with this, the removal of plastics. Something's going on here. I'm not so sure. Is that a real accent? Are you really from Spain?
Yep. Yeah. I may have some New Jersey blood in me.
I think you do. I think you do. Tell me about this is what I thought is also interesting. I did a little research. Gum. Is gum plastic?
Oh, right. Yeah, so gum's made out of plastic, so it's not
That's
biodegradable.
disgusting.
So not only are we chewing plastic and that gets into our saliva and our bloodstream, but when we throw it away, it's never going to biodegrade. So it's just going to become smaller and smaller pieces of microplastic that ends up in the soil, that then ends up in our drinking water, that then ends up back in our bodies.
It's amazing what we don't think about. It's made of. I don't really chew gum, but I used to. That's plastic. What the hell am I doing? What are you like? What? It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? Like, what are we doing?
It's funny because that's another important point. I feel like we don't think about what we consume.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's the first step in all of this is opening our eyes to what comes into our bodies.
Sugar and plastic. Hey, let me chew on some sugar and plastic.
Right.
Not good.
And then, where does it go after we're done with it? So when we use plastic, there's no such thing as a way. It's not like you throw something into the rubbish, into the trash, and snap your finger, gone. Everything has to go somewhere.
Yeah. That's like almost a no-brainer. I don't like pushing stuff, but when I heard about gum, and I'm like, so not only are you avoiding chewing on plastic and putting that in your body, you're avoiding getting that sugar, fake sugar, and putting it in your body, and you're avoiding having it not being biodegradable. Yeah, exactly. But the best thing you could do is you could vote. You could vote with your dollar. You could not buy gum. You cannot use plastic. You can go have your own produce bags that are not plastic. You can use the bulk bins. You can make your own fruit. You can carry your berries in glass jars in the car. It's not that big of a deal. It's really not. I do it every day. It's not that big of a deal. You can refill glass water bottles. It is not that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. It really is really simple when you think about it, which I know I'm preaching to the choir. But so what other like, I don't want you to give away all your secrets because I know you have the ebook and we're going to get that out there. But like, what other things, like, how else can we inspire people to make certain changes to get back on track?
Yeah, I'd say the first step is to equip yourself with a plastic-free kit. So, in the ebook, I write down like what this kit can be made up of. And then, of course, we're all different. And so it depends on all of our needs. Like, I don't need a reusable straw, but somebody else might. Or, so it depends. It can vary, but there's
somebody else, as in me. Is that what you?
No pun intended.
You just say somebody else might, like John.
I didn't say it.
But you know what? You've already made me change. I don't think I'm going to use a straw for the rest of my life, thanks to you.
Excellent. Yes.
Pretty sure.
But yeah, so that's I'd say a good starting point to just see it as we're equipping ourselves with tools. So things like a reusable water bottle, and it can be glass or it can be, stainless steel like this one.
Where do you
It
get
can,
those though? Plastic-free kits.
well, you make up your own. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
why I kind of put it all together in the book and made it really easy. So I've been experimenting with this for years and trying to find the best solutions, just based on my own experience. And I put this kind of toolkit together for anyone who's interested in making these changes. So, things like reusable bamboo cutlery. So I work with this beautiful woman who's got a brand called Atessa Boutique. She's based in the States, and she makes bamboo cutlery and packages it in these little cotton bags that are kind of like travel pouches.
Oh,
So
no
like
kidding.
whenever I travel, I carry this reusable bamboo cutlery with me. Um, there's things like lunch boxes. So when you go to get takeout food, you can just take your metal reusable or plastic or, glass, whatever it is that's going to be reusable. Take it, fill it up, and off you go. So there's a very specific um, toolkit that anyone can equip themselves with.
Just don't drop it down the stairs. Clang, 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 bang, 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 bang,
Yeah,
bang, bang, ting,
glass.
tang, bang, bang, boing, bang.
Exactly.
Just hold on to it.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, honestly, John, there's an amazing sense of like success and self-empowerment that happens when you take things back into your own hands. So you don't diffuse responsibility anymore and think that somebody else will take care of it. It's up to us. So when that really sinks in, when we really realize how much power we each have to make a difference, it's it's intoxicating because you know that you're doing your bit, so you don't fall victim to the system anymore. You're doing your bit. You become an agent of change.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
good.
So,
Like you know you're
you know,
doing the right thing.
exactly. And it's also, it has an effect on our well-being
Yeah.
when we know that we're doing something well, that we're, helping, that our perception is on more than just our own problems, then that ripples into our lives in a state of, it increases our sense of well-being.
That's health.
Exactly. It
That's
makes us
health
more
right there.
essentially.
This is one question, one of the many questions I wanted to ask you because I don't, I'm a little confused with it. So you mentioned single-use plastics.
Yeah.
So there's the single-use plastics, which is kind of common sense, and you can only use it one time versus the recycles. But like, what's the difference between single-use plastic and the recycled plastic? Like,
None necessarily. A single use normally means plastic that you use once. So, like disposable plastic that you can recycle. For example, like a bottle.
right?
A bottle is seen as single use because you buy it once, you use it once, and then you throw it away.
Okay, got you. Okay.
You can recycle it, but recycling isn't really the best option. It's kind of like plan Z at the end of, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. At the end of all of that, there's recycling. But the most harmful plastics are single use because, we use them once and then we throw them away. There's plastics like, for example, phones, or iPads, laptops, headphones, microphones, any kind of electronics are made of plastic, but they're not single use. They're not recyclable either. So
Right.
when we finish them, they'll end up in landfill. Um,
Right.
but the idea of single use plastic is that it's the most common ones that we buy of things that then get thrown out straight away.
Yeah, and I have another thought, and this is crazy, but we have recycling that comes twice a month. So the garbage comes twice a week.
Yeah.
In my town, I think it's Tuesday and Friday, but recycling twice a month.
Mm.
And by the time, so that's not exactly giving people the incentive to recycle
Yeah.
because we have a lot of boxes because we order through like Amazon and all sorts of stuff like that. And Believe it or not, as much as I try to do my part, I'll be completely honest with you, my blue recycling bin gets pretty loaded up. I'm not too proud of it, and I want to make a change, and I'm going to, but it does get pretty loaded up because we do buy those berries. Now I know, thanks to you, that I can freeze berries, and I will start doing that. I will. I will start doing that. But you know, we buy berries a lot. I love berries, but they and all that plastic. My point is, they come twice a week, so it just kind of gives people the perception that it's not as important as the regular garbage, and then you can just. I mean, I'm you know I make sure that I separate everything and I'm careful with it, but I'm sure there's other people who are probably like, well, you know what? There's no room, and I'll just throw it in the regular trash, and then here we go.
Yeah. And then
Well,
there's also not much education around recycling and what can be recycled and what can't. And I learned recently, John, something that blew my mind about, you know, those cartons that like milk and juice come in. Those what are they called? They're cardboard, but they're like lined with aluminium and they've got a plastic lid. And
yeah, I don't know what they're
some,
made of, but
yeah, well, they're. I always used to think that those were recyclable. Because I just kind of assumed they're cardboard, so I'll just put them in with the paper. And I read recently that they're not recyclable.
oh really?
And huge because there's so much of them. I mean, most milk will come in either a plastic bottle or one of those cardboard containers.
Yeah.
And so when I used to buy things like almond milk or oat milk, I'd buy it in those cardboard containers, thinking I was doing well. You know, give myself a pat on the back. Yes, great. I'm fighting pollution. I'm recycling. But actually, I just learned, you know, recently. So as I said, this is a journey. I'm no expert. I'm still learning. Um, that these aren't recyclable. They're made with 3 different materials. So who is going to sit? You know, there's this kind of ideal vision that I had of this person at the other end of the recycling bins, you know, separating everything lovingly and
Hmm.
putting it all where it needs to go. And that doesn't happen. It's all machines. And you can't recycle something unless it's one material only. So those cardboard boxes of almond milk or, you know, orange juice aren't recyclable. It
Ay,
blew my mind when I found out. I was so upset.
God, I'm gonna go hungry. I'm just gonna.
I
There goes my berries. There goes my almond milk. Oh my God, what now? It's freezing
know.
out. There's nothing growing. I'm dead. I'm in trouble. I'm really in
So
big.
this is where what we were saying about self-sustainability
Oh,
comes in and DIY, you know, doing it yourself. It's either the 2 options that I've found are either ditching it completely and saying, you know what, I can do without pineapple juice, or it's making it ourselves.
if you see me outside with the deer chewing on the grass, then you've known I've lost my mind because that's apparently where we've gotten to. No, you
No,
do the best you can.
no, no, no. No, no, no. There's really simple options that are, you know, we can live just as well, if not better, plastic free. You know where your foods come from. You know that it's in season. You can make it yourself, so you know what's in it. So, you know, for example, like a lot of the juices that come in containers, um, how is it that almond milk, for example, can stay in a cupboard for months unopened?
I don't even know what almond milk
Almond milk
is.
that But when you make your own almond milk, it lasts about 5 days.
Oh,
But
really?
almond milk in cartons lasts months. I mean,
Yeah.
what do they put in there for it to last that long? So it's things like this. You know, the plastic-free journey ends up having an amazing impact on your health because you have control about over what goes into your body.
Yeah, it really does get quite simple, quite frankly. It gets actually so simple, it's unbelievable. We always try to
Yeah,
make it hard. It's whole plant foods.
exactly.
It is
It's
whole plant
whole
foods.
foods. Yes, exactly.
That has been shown for God knows how long to be the most effective for
Yeah,
your health, bar none.
yeah.
You know those blue. You ever hear of the blue zones?
No.
They call them blue zones. I think someone maybe patented. I forget his name, but there's areas around the world. There's like 5 so-called blue zones. But really, all they are is they're small areas, rural areas where the people don't have much. They have everything, but they don't have much. If you get what I mean, they
Yeah.
are farming. They farm together, so they do it together. So they have relationships They have the love, their families together. They're outside getting their exercise. They're getting fresh air, nature. They're eating whole plant foods. There's no
Mm.
pesticides. They don't have it. They can't afford it. They're not spraying anything. Whatever the bugs do, they do. And they have to kind of deal with it. And whatever they can get, they struggle for, they get. These
Mhm.
places, they live so long. It's unbelievable. There's one in Greece. There's one in Japan. There's actually one in California, Loma Linda. There's
Wow.
there's a couple more. But
Yeah.
they're areas where they've gotten yeah, they work together. They have everything kind of right there. So they have the nutrition. They have and when work ends, they're done. Like
Mhm.
Monday to Friday, 5 o'clock comes, they go and they're spiritual together, and it stops.
Yeah.
So these
I mean,
are
uh, there's 2 points there that I feel are so important for us to kind of learn from for ourselves in our modern lives. And one is, that we are what we eat. So we can control what goes into our bodies by making it ourselves from our own ingredients. And the other one is to connect with nature. So the more time we spend outside and the more we connect with the earth, the more we're reminded of what we're protecting, of
yeah.
what's at stake here. Because I think that changing our habits is one of the hardest things that we can do. And trying to get other people to change their habits is, I mean,
So I'm gonna hire you to help me with my
so
social media accounts so I can go outside for more runs. Is that okay? I'm listen. Don't get upset with me. I'm just taking your advice. I agree with you. Like I just want to get
yeah,
off the devices as much as I can. I want to promote this show, and I want to promote you, and I want to make sure that we inspire people to change. But shamanism and activism. You're a shaman.
yes.
Are you a shaman?
Um, I practice shamanism.
So tell me how shamanism and activism prepares you to ignite social and environmental change.
Yeah, sure. So I feel like shamanism is the ancient form of environmentalism. So, the shamans were the people, the men and the women of ancient times who knew that they were one and the same as everything else. So they knew that there was this web of life that ran through every living thing, that every living thing was connected to. Um, and the most common word that's used to describe this web of life is spirit. So spirit lives within all of us. We're all part of, we've all got this within us, be it a tree, a deer, a fish, a little boy. We're all made up of the same stuff. And they taught this to the people and continue to teach this to the people. This is the main point of shamanism, to connect ourselves and each other back, to connect ourselves back to ourselves first and the spirit within us, and then to connect ourselves to the earth and to each other. And the reason I think I made this link recently between shamanism and environmentalism, because what environmentalism essentially says is we're not separate from nature. We are nature, right? So the shamans were saying the same thing all along. They were saying we are all made up of the same stuff. We're not separate from nature. We're not separate from each other. And so I've been training in shamanism since 2012, and I've been trying to find the links and how to marry these two practices, these two tools, I'd say, so that I can help heal the issues that we're facing at the moment. So through activism and through shamanism.
I remember now. Last time we talked, you were telling me about the shaman that you were training under. You got to
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about that.
yeah. The one that I'm currently training with, or
Both.
yeah. Well, I started training with a shaman in Peru, um, and um, learnt the ways of his lineage, of that specific region in Peru. But I realized that that wasn't my heritage. It didn't speak to me. I understood what he was saying, and I think that it's important, but it's not my ancestry. It doesn't. It, And so I started looking at Europe and, who were the ancient peoples of Europe? And surely there must have been some kind of wisdom held within the history of Europe. And sure enough, I found it. And, there are actually lots of branches of it. And, pre-institutionalized religion, we had wisdom and knowledge that I think way supersedes the knowledge that we have now in, so-called civilization. So I started digging into this, and I just, it now has become the root of everything. Everything that I do is with this understanding that separation is an illusion. We're all made up of the same stuff. So my life is not more important than the life of the deer in the forest or than the abandoned dog, and understanding and seeing that this forms part of history, that other people knew this once, that this is actually a thing.
Yeah.
Kind of confirmed that, okay, this must be true. This must be the whole truth. I spent as long as I can remember
The
trying
whole
to find
truth.
the whole truth.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And, John, holistic activism, because I was on the streets protesting since I was 15 years old. Now, I worked with refugees and asylum seekers and ex-political prisoners when I was 17. I could not stay home and live in privilege and comfort, knowing that there were so many people around the world suffering, oppressed. That the scales of justice and the balance of the world is totally off. And until it's balanced, I can't live as though they were. So I started on this journey as an activist and trying to figure out how I can help, what I can do from my place of privilege. And I just tired myself out. I just, activism as I was doing it was not enough. I had to find a more holistic form. And that's what drove me to spirituality after an accident I had, where, this outer journey became an inner one. And I started learning how to meditate, and I started learning about breath work and about energy and, all of these concepts that were totally foreign to me once as well.
Yeah. Your journey with shamanism and activism has gotten you to where you are now, and everything you're doing is beautiful. It's great work. You see the passion, and see how sincere you are, and that you want to create change and inspire people to make change. That's why I think you and I hit it off. That's why we have our mutual friend, Billiana. I'll just say Billiana, if you're listening, I love you. You're the best.
Hey, Billiana.
We love you, Billiana. And Billiana said, you got to talk to Gabriela. And off and running, we were here. And yeah, so keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great work. And I hear you with everything you're saying. And we'll get there slowly, right? The word is slowly and not fast, because that's the way things work, slow. So with a little patience, you and I'll help you. We'll help each other out and move in the right direction. But let me ask you about, so how can people find out your ebook and Gabriela for Change? So what's Gabriela for Change?
Yeah, that's just my Instagram account where I use my social media to ignite change.
Okay.
Yeah, but the movement that I created, I launched this new movement in
That's what
January.
I meant to say. That's what I meant to say. Changemaker Rising.
Yeah.
I got it.
So I
Changemaker
launched
Rising.
this new movement in January called Changemaker Rising. And it's a 3-part movement that's divided into an ebook, a social media challenge, and online mentoring. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to inspire people to take individual action for our earth and for ourselves. So for our own well-being, to heal ourselves, but also for the well-being of the earth, to heal the earth. So my partner and I, who you did a podcast with recently.
Casey.
Yeah, Casey. He and I have been putting a book together for the past year, and we just launched an ebook version of it on the new year. That's basically almost like a little guidebook for people to get started with 12 action steps that everyone can take to have a positive impact on the planet. So you know how I said that we've got these 12 years to take action?
Okay, yeah.
We've condensed those into 12 steps over 12 months.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's what I do on the social media challenge. So on my Instagram, I've got in the link in my bio.
In the link in your bio.
In the link in my bio, I've
Right.
got a pledge that people can go to, take a pledge to become a change maker. And then when they do that, they receive a list of 12 things they can do to help the planet. And then there's the option of buying our ebook, which helps support our work so that we can, dedicate as much time and attention to this as possible. And then the final piece is the online mentoring. So I see 10 people a month to do one-to-one online mentoring on Skype to help them examine their habits and see how they can change them to make change.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much. And it was great to connect with you again. Next time when you're in New Jersey,
absolutely.
let's get you back into the podcast studio.
Yes,
so that you're not so far away from me.
There.
Come back when it's warm, though.
Yes, as soon as you get rid of your straws.
They're gone. You've already inspired change in me.
Gone already.
There's a change maker, and I'm talking to her. Her name is Gabriela Gutierrez. And thank you. You're the best. Great work. And with that, that is a wrap. Until next time, adios, amigos.